Good afternoon and welcome to another Idaho House Republicans podcast, where you get to learn a little bit more about the legislators that you sent to the State House. We thank you for joining us today. So today we are going to be speaking with Jordan Redman, Representative Jordan Redman, who is in Legislative District 3. Good afternoon to you, Jordan.
How are you?
Thanks for joining the show.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, let's tell you a little about your background. You are a native Idahoan. You're born in Coeur d'Alene, lifelong resident of Northern Idaho.
That's right.
And you attended North Idaho College, Whitworth, University of Idaho. You were homeschooled, which is super cool. And you are a financial guy, insurance, financial services, real estate, medical stuff. And the most important thing is you're married to Amy and you have 6 kids.
We do.
You don't look like you're old enough for 6 kids.
I'm 40, so
wow.
that's
all
old
right.
enough.
Do the math.
Yeah.
Do the math.
Yeah.
Okay, it can work.
Yeah.
So anyway, welcome to the show. And the first thing we like to do is tell people a little bit about your legislative district. What is Legislative District 3? What do they care about? Is it rural, urban? Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so up in District 3, it is pretty rural. We have Hayden, Post Falls, Rathdrum. So we do have some cities in there, but it's a more rural area up north and very conservative district. It's basically, again, where I've lived my whole life. I grew up in Spirit Lake, which is probably 20 miles from where I live now. But yeah, great community and wouldn't want to live anywhere else.
So Jordan, you are in your second term. So tell people what inspired you to run for the State House in the first place. Maybe it's those 6 kids.
Yeah. Well, that's part of it, probably.
Yeah, it's got to be, right?
So my father served probably 14 years ago or so. And I kind of saw...
In the State House?
In the State House,
okay.
Yep.
And his name was?
Eric Redman.
Eric Redman,
Yeah.
There you go.
And I saw kind of what he went through in his service, and I thought, there is no way I'd ever do that. It just looked horrible, right? Just kind of,
God has other plans.
Well, 100%.
He does.
So I was asked if I'd consider running, and I said, well, we'll pray about it, but in my mind, I'm saying, I know how that prayer is going to go, and it's not time, right? And but my wife and I actually did really seek the Lord, prayed through it, and it was very clear and evident that the Lord wanted us to do this. And so ended up throwing the name in the hat, won. And it's been an incredible experience. I think that the Lord's been providing the entire way. And yeah, I'm very grateful that we were obedient. So.
Well, praise God. God, that's not the right answer. Oh, yes, it is. It is. I'll prove it to you.
That's right.
And so now you are. You're here in the State House. You've already had an immediate impact here, and we want to talk about a couple of issues that are near and dear to your heart. Yeah. So let's start with the housing issue. So let's do a little background. So I looked at Redfin in December 2020. Representative Redman, the median home was $369,000. It's now $511,000. So it's up almost 40%. The population growth in Idaho is up almost over 50% since 2000, gone from 1.3 to 2 million people. And there's just an interesting article in the Statesman just last week that talked about in Idaho, in general, in the larger markets, it's actually cheaper to rent than it is to buy, which is an unusual thing. Because obviously, you are a financial guy, and you know the importance of when you own your home, that mortgage payment, does include some equity in it. So as you make your payments, you actually own more and more of your house. And eventually, you'll take it back from the bank, only to be taxed by the
That's right.
By property tax, but that's another issue. But so housing is something that you are really involved in, those issues. There's going to be some new bills that you're going to introduce next week. Tell people about why you want to be involved in housing issues and what types of things you're thinking about in your bills that you're bringing next week.
Yeah, you bet. So obviously, as a conservative, very free market based thought process. So I don't want to provide a bunch of government funding or interference to try to actually screw up the real estate market. Right. We want to look at what are the free market levers, policy levers that we can pull to actually allow for housing cost to go down. And I think the biggest reason behind it is you want people to live that American dream, right?
Correct.
And so much of that American dream is home ownership. It's raising a family. It's having the backyard to play in. It's barbecues. That's the American dream, in my opinion, right?
Yes.
And right now, that's so unattainable for so many of our young adults, to where, at least in the state of Idaho, they're looking at moving outside the state, right? And these are people that have been here for generations, but I can't buy a home here, so I'm going to go look somewhere else where housing's cheaper, where I can actually build that American dream. So if we look at housing cost today and some of the areas that are driving cost. One of the biggest one is regulatory capture, right? I mean, we have so much regulatory barriers within our state that, like, up in my neck of the woods in North Idaho, there's some communities that you're spending $100,000 before you stick a shovel in the ground from
Wow.
all the red tape. And that's something that the business committee, that's something our state, I think, has prided ourselves on, is the red tape reduction, right?
Mm.
But there is so much further that we can go to get rid of all this bureaucratic red tape to really lower that cost. So a lot of what we're looking at is streamlining processes, removing timelines, creating shot clocks so that these municipalities, they have to move quicker, and then allowing for the area, if it doesn't fit just in this unique specific area, well, let's have a little bit of gray area there so that they can actually build on whatever that specific lot is. So I think removing government from the equation will actually lower costs significantly, and that's going to be passed on to the end user.
And we should remind people you are on 4 committees
Correct.
within the House. Maybe just quickly list them for
Yeah.
everyone, because you did mention the business committee, of which you are the chair.
Correct. Yep. Yeah. So, I chair business. And the thought with chairing business this year is let's make Idaho the most free market, pro business state in the country. And I think there's a lot of ways to do that just by removing government, right? I also sit on health and welfare. I sit on environment, energy, and technology, and then the ethics committee.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's go back to that. Thank you for telling us about your committees. Let's go back to the housing. So you're going to introduce some what's called RS, which is the
Yep.
very beginning part of a bill. You have to go to the committee and convince the committee to print the bill.
Correct.
They'll give then the bill a number, and that's where it all begins. The debate happens in the committee, and then hopefully you get out of the committee to the floor. You get from the floor to the Senate to the governor.
Correct.
So when you think about RSs, how many RSs, how many bill ideas are you expecting to bring? And what are the general topics of those bills?
Yeah. So for these bills, because obviously you want to stick to a single subject, and there's no silver bullet for housing reform, right? It's more of a
Right.
silver shotgun. So we're
Right.
using a number of different levers.
Approaches,
Yeah.
yes.
So I think there's about 13 specific housing bills, and so much of them is dealing with land use, dealing with timelines, dealing with permitting, kind of minor tweaks that together can actually create a larger impact, right? And again, there's different strokes for different folks too, right? So some of these reforms that we're looking at will impact one segment, the other will impact another segment. And so just as we go through all of them, it will really allow the free market to do what the free market can do. And that's have a competitive process that should actually drive for really more housing, which should drive down cost.
Right. So tell people a little bit about in the Coeur d'Alene area, where your legislative District 3, what has it been like there in terms of growth and housing costs? What have you seen personally just where you are in Idaho?
Yeah. Yeah. So up north, I mean, Coeur d'Alene's a beautiful area.
Yes.
It's just,
God's country.
it truly is God's
Mhm.
country. And I don't know, it was probably during COVID. I think the Wall Street Journal wrote an article about it was like the top place in the world to live. It was
I
some
know.
crazy article.
You're exactly right.
And because of that, Coeur d'Alene got put on the map and people understood where it was. And so we've had an enormous amount of growth up north, which has driven cost. It's driven prices. And, you do have a number of, again, young adults that are unable to buy a home there now and live in North Idaho. So, we've seen it firsthand. And I've also seen firsthand how government red tape can get in the way and not allow for people to build on a reasonable timeline. I mean, you can think about if maybe, say, a municipality is holding up a development for a number of different questions. Those questions are answered, but then they have more questions. Well, the developer bought the dirt and they're paying an interest ticker on it, right? The longer that project goes on, that interest drives cost, which gets passed to the end user. So what they maybe have thought of, okay, we're going to start selling these homes at 400,000. By the end of the project, maybe it's 600,000, and all of a sudden that removes a large segment of buyers. So again, trying to just remove government from market.
Let's talk about another topic that is near and dear to your heart, and that is health.
Yes.
Right. So, as you know, we have Bobby Kennedy Jr. has been brought in, and he is into making America healthy again.
Yes.
And you are very grateful that that is a theme running through this country right now. So there's some ideas that you have relative to students and health that you'd like to see advanced in the state. Maybe talk about what you see there.
Yeah. So I actually got invited back to DC for the MAHA white paper when they first announced it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, pretty awesome opportunity. And back there, we got to talk some different policy options that the MAHA team is working on, and took back some ideas to bring to the state of Idaho. And some of those ideas are honestly looking at better healthy foods in schools, right? Whether that's in vending machines. I mean, you go to some of these schools and they have Monster energy drinks in the vending machines, and that's
Right.
probably
Not the best choice.
not the best choice
No.
for young growing bodies, right? So, looking at cleaning up not only school lunches, but also the vending machines. And then we hear also about some schools that aren't doing full recess, right? They need to hit these test scores, and so we're gonna work through, or we're gonna allow for people to have iPad time. I think there's something so healthy, especially about young children, to be outside playing, getting
Right.
fresh air, getting the wiggles out.
Moving.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. I mean, that's gonna
Mhm.
help them learn and retain the information so much better if they're not
Right.
squirming, right?
Right.
Again, I have 6 kids and my wife homeschools them, but we make sure to take time to go outside and get some fresh air and run around because they retain the knowledge that she's teaching them so much better by doing that. So, and then again, kind of getting back to the basics of like, being a healthy young person, right? Like physical fitness. We should be able to use our bodies, these temples that God's blessed us with to actually be functioning adults, right? And unfortunately, when we're just sitting around all day, that's not the best health outcome for young kids. Yeah, looking at doing some initiatives there and bringing them through the education committee. So, yeah, those will be really fun to work on. And I actually think those are ideas that so many people can get behind.
So obviously encouraging recess, getting out, enjoying God's world,
Yep.
right? Foods, like more healthy foods. And then when you and I were younger, maybe when I was younger, maybe not you, but because I'm a little bit older than you, there was this presidential fitness award. Do you remember that?
Correct. Yeah.
Do you remember that?
I do. Yeah.
Okay. So you'd like to kind of see that come back as something that's actually actively promoted within the school.
Exactly right. Yeah, yeah, actively promoting that because, that's a great little opportunity. Competition's healthy, and it's fun for kids to get to compete even against themselves
Right. Just to
in
see how, yeah,
achieving something, right?
exactly.
So, yeah, I think that's a great little honor. They can get the little badge and they can be proud of that, and they hopefully it, somehow institutes in them that physical fitness is good.
Yeah, when we
Exercise
were
is
young, we would get a certificate, like,
Yeah,
from the president, like,
completely. Yeah.
"You're the man
Yeah,
or the woman."
exactly.
So what other issues are you looking at? Like, what do you think are the most important issues that Idahoans should be watching as it comes through the state house, outside of what you're running specifically, but
Mhm.
what are you looking at in terms of what do you think Idahoans should be saying, "Hey, that's the most important thing to look at this year out of this session"?
Yeah, obviously, I have a few other items. I think there's gonna be some immigration reforms. I think we're gonna kind of continue that. We're gonna see some, more regulatory reforms, try to get away from that government creep, and then I think property taxes is still something that is on top of mind for a lot of people, and so
Right.
we're exploring some ideas there, with property tax as well.
And what's your general thoughts on how we would continue to reduce property taxes? The legislature's done a marvelous job of really working on that and personal income tax rates,
Yep.
corporate income tax rates, creating these funds for the schools so that we take away the pressures on levies and bonds.
Yep.
I mean, we've done $6 billion of tax cuts in the last 5 years,
Yeah.
which is pretty magnificent. I think we're one of the lowest states per capita in the country
Right?
in tax burden. So
Yeah.
what's your thoughts in even further reducing maybe the property tax side in particular?
Yeah, I think it's probably just for the home ownership, like your primary home ownership. If we can reduce that a little bit, I mean, I'm not necessarily going into all the other property tax, but just for the home ownership, you do think of the little grandma, right, that now owns her home, but she's getting priced out based on just
Right?
property tax. Even though we do have low property taxes, I think something like that, that's true home ownership where you're not owing something to the government even after you
Right.
paid off the mortgage. I still believe that would be a good policy to see.
And also, obviously, it would dovetail very nicely with what you're doing with your RSs in housing.
Correct.
How do we reduce the overall cost of housing? And obviously, when you write a tax check, that's a burden. That's a cost of owning the home. Is there any other issues that you want to talk about before we sign off today?
I don't think so.
Jordan Redman.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Hey, by the way, we should remind people that the Liberty Bell is
Yes.
going to be leaving the State House today for a little journey back to the Foundry in South Carolina.
Yeah.
It's going to get a little refurbishing, and then it's going to come and do a tour of all of Idaho, and then come back in time for the July 4th celebration this year. Any thoughts about your feelings of our great state and July 4th?
Yeah, I think the America 250 is going to be incredible. I'm really happy that as a legislature and as a state, we're really celebrating that. I think we really need to be proud to live in the greatest country in the entire world and the greatest state in the country. So,
Praise God.
yeah.
Well, we thank you all for joining us on the Idaho House Republicans podcast. We've been spending some time with Jordan Redman, Representative Jordan Redman, who represents Legislative District 3 and your seat B, right?
Correct.
And we just thank you, Jordan, for joining us and talking a little bit about housing and health and property taxes and the Liberty Bell.
Yeah, thank you.
And thank you for joining us. And until the next show, we always say, God bless the great state of Idaho.
From timber towns to wheat field roads, different roads, but the same old hope. We bow our heads and we stand up tall, answering the people when due.